All right, there's still attendees piling on, so I think we'll get underway though, just for the respect of everyone who's dived on in. So, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the CodeMark webinar, QPOD CodeMark. We're excited to share this morning. It's been flipping exciting for us getting this CodeMark a couple of weeks back, and now bringing it to the market and telling everyone what it's all about, how it works, and what it means, and the massive savings that are involved. So, hey, big shout out to you all for jumping on. We're excited, so let's get this underway. Just want to run through kind of what we're talking about today briefly, if I can just slide on through. We're just going to have a look at today, just introducing QPOD for some of the attendees that may not be too familiar with QPOD. A lot of you will be now. What QPOD replaces, the configurations of QPOD, there's two, and what changes with the CodeMark certification, which is really what we're all about today. Some cost savings that are now available with that, our CodeMark support tools, and then we'll open up at the end for a Q&A session. Or just any questions you might have that we don't cover off, because we won't. But yeah, so if you put those questions in the chat box down the bottom, put any questions in, and Sam will collate these at the end, and he'll call them out, and we'll try and cover off any questions that we get throughout as well. And right at the end, just covering off our offer to you today, we've got a special offer of a free foundation design or designs for the month of April. So really keen to share a little bit of what that's about for everyone who stays on today. So cheers for joining. We'll get underway, just introducing QPOD. So introducing QPOD, what it's all about. Essentially, it's a recycled plastic pod system. 100% recyclable. So generally on a site, there is no waste to recycle. It's all components that can be reused. It's a fast install system. It's all modular, clipped together, and obviously can be transported on the back of a ute and trailer versus, your typical truck and trailer, a lot of polystyrene pods, which is what we're really combating. The light, I mean, you can handle them. Any builders can put them down. Homeowners have put these in. They come pre-assembled in a group of 4. So they pretty much mimic that of an 1100 polystyrene pod. They just clip together, modular lock together system. Having a look at the mesh, we've got a mesh spacer built into the pod. This gives ultimate mesh placement throughout the installation. It keeps that mesh at a really mint level. Essentially, you've got 4 bar chairs per pod, and the concrete pour is pretty self-explanatory. So that's a little short overview on QPOD, what it's about, and why we're about. Really, it's because of the polystyrene, and we really want to give designers and installers an alternative with polystyrene. What is the problem with polystyrene? Well, the waste, the delivery logistics of that, what I outlined earlier as to the difference in logistics. Like I say, you get 50 square meters of product of QPOD on a pallet. So 3 or 4 pallets for a site and you're done. So it's pretty awesome in that respect. Not that recyclable poly. And what's it made of? That stuff that goes everywhere in the neighborhood when they're building. We don't want it. Looking at the advantage of QPOD, obviously no waste being the modular system, and a ute and trailer will do the trick instead of a typical truck and trailer of polystyrene pods. 100% recyclable and obviously made of 100% recycled plastic as well, which we source locally here in New Zealand and some from offshore as well. So recycled and reprocessed and completely so. Diving into configurations, I'll try and slow down my presentation so I'm not speaking too fast and confusing everyone, but the 2 configurations essentially for QPOD are the raft system, which we're quite familiar with. That's typically got your ribs at 1200 centres and your mesh on top. This is the system we see around New Zealand, which really swaps out the typical polystyrene pod installation we see. The second configuration is QPOD continuous, This really removes the ribs out of a raft system. And obviously, once we remove those ribs, you've got a massive saving in concrete and steel usages. So continuous performs on good ground essentially, or down to 200 kPa. It doesn't have the extensive performance of a raft slab, which is more typically found in your grounds heading into liquefaction expansive grounds. So we talk more today about the continuous because that's really what the CodeMark was all about, was focusing on this continuous system, which is a new one for us. So why continuous and how the cost savings, that's really what I wanted to share. So there are cost savings, and that they equate to an average of $3,000 on an average 220 square meter build. And how do we come about $3,000? I will share that with you. So with the ribs gone, we've got less steel, rib steel, we've got less concrete in those ribs. And then we've got obviously open the book there on concrete suppliers. We align ourselves with all the concrete suppliers of New Zealand who supply certified concrete. And that really gives yourselves, designers, builders, the opportunity to flex with your supplier that works best for you, the one that supports you the most, the one that delivers your concrete on time. Approvals, obviously being code marked, this makes it very easy for approvals. The council can inspect these slabs, doesn't require engineering. So submit your design with a CodeMark certificate, and that's suitable for submission to council. No engineering, no polystyrene. Bring it on. QPOD CodeMark. So this CodeMark was a busy little project of ours for the last 6 months, and I'll extend it out to a year, getting this to fruition. We did that with GlobalMark in Australia. So they were a recognised division in working out code marks. So we're excited to get this a couple of weeks ago. We posted up a few blogs online, and our raving fans joined us in celebrating that. So I hope we've got a few more today to join us. What's the difference with the code mark? Narrow corridors. We just want to pull that out. Are cool again. So what are narrow corridors? We're seeing a lot of these in the designs of today. This house shape here is probably not so typical, but we see a lot of H-shaped houses with a narrow corridor between. You would have all seen it. This here was pushing a lot of designs outside of CodeMark, which was disturbing for us. So in our CodeMark, we included this. So narrow corridors, no longer a problem. We just gave some guidance around when to put a free joint in and what that free joint looks like. So when you've got a narrow corridor, follow the guidance in the manual, put a free joint in if it's required. Covered. To any length, design slabs to any length. So there was a limitation around lengths of slabs or sizes. So with the QPOD CodeMark, there is no limitation on lengths. There again, just some guidance around when to put a free joint in. So you know, within every 30 meters lineal, you'll need to put a free joint in, and all that guidance is in our design manual. QPOD performs down to 200 kPa. So essentially, the ground conditions that the CodeMark QPOD performs in is down to 200 kPa, or generally good ground conditions, with the exception of a reduction in that kPa. So with the continuous design, the pods the way they are suitable down to 200. So that does flex it a little bit, with us struggling to find 300 kPa ground in New Zealand, which the good ground defines. So there's a little bit of flex there. When we head into liquefaction and expansivity issues, which is a lot of in New Zealand now, we dive into the raft system and obviously SED. So more on that later. Standard detailing for the CodeMark QPOD, typical to what you'd normally see, apart from no ribs, they're gone. So we've got our mesh on the top, SE62 mesh. We've got our typical 3 perimeter bars of HD12. and our hockey stick bars or bent bars on the perimeter. These are essentially your, well, starter bars, which is what they once were in the 3604. They're a hockey stick bar that goes at every second pod, or 1100 centers along the perimeter. This just ties your perimeter foundation into your topping. You see some standard details there for standard lightweight claddings, brick rebate claddings, and a garage rebate. Obviously, we've got a full suite of standard details we can share with you. You can download off the webpage anytime you like. Provisions for insulation. This is a common question today. Yes, our CodeMark covers provision for insulation. Some don't, and I'm sure they're busily working on that. But under slab insulation, tick. Side insulation, tick. So we generally work with XPS under slab, reason being it performs the best in compression and R value. And thirdly, it doesn't make a hang of a mess on site when you're cutting it like the EPS does. So we recommend that for our insulation, either under slab or side, combo of both or one or the other. We work with a lot of suppliers on that. Support tools for you. We've got standard detailing, which I mentioned. This is all downloadable off our website. You can grab that whenever you like. A material calculator, you can find that on the website too. This, if you put in your lineal meters, square meters, it will spit out for you estimated components required, steel required, and concrete required. Likewise, our R value calculators, we've got some awesome calculators on that too. Looking at, like I mentioned earlier, our different insulation options, under slab, side insulations, brick and lightweight claddings, 140mm framing, 90mm framing, it's all covered. Type in those variants, put in your meter squared lineal meters, and it will spit out for you some options to choose and download for compliance. Engineering, like I mentioned earlier, when things fall outside the CodeMark, we can engineer. And generally that's heading towards the raft design again. So raft design's still there, still readily available, and we're putting down lots of raft slabs every day. And that is because our ground conditions do demand that. Engineering, obviously any engineer can take up QPOD and engineer it. We do also offer an engineering service in-house and have done for some time. This is just really to make life easier for you designers to take up QPOD. Okay, if it's outside CodeMark, let's talk to QPOD, they'll make it easier about engineering as well. So we'll take that hassle off you, deliver an engineered design in 10 to 15 working days, typically what we're working with. So Q&A, that really brings us to the end of our brief overview. We wanted to be nice and succinct today, and then give you something to think about and give you something to take away. But yeah, if there's Q&As through the session, Sam, is there some come in?
Sure, yeah. So one from Ben here. What is the difference in R value between QPOD and polypod?
Difference in R value between QPOD and polypod? Great question. The difference between the two is very negligible. Polystyrene does perform slightly better just in terms of the way it's shaped in the pod, in the floor. But then when you look at the heat loss in the perimeter, that's where a lot of the action happens. So as soon as you put under slab insulation in or side insulation in, it quickly lifts both QPOD and polystyrene pods up to very similar values. There is a slight difference in the values. I'm not going to hide that. It's very slight, but it's negligible. And on our calculators, you'll see if you poke in those area meter squared and lineal meters, it'll give you out exactly your R values and different scenarios. Cool, great question.
Just another question from Dave here. Bottom plate fixing for hardy-brack.
Bottom plate fixings for hardy-brack. Yeah, so that's probably a question I can't answer in great detail on here, because it's just dependent on the supplier specifications. But often these questions are asked around with side insulation in mind, and getting that the hold down bolt sufficient holding. There are some systems out there which you can put on the side of the slab, or obviously they stop shy with the insulation some of the way up. And Quick Edge is one I know that does that really well. They've got their quick set taper, which stops shy at the top, which means you don't need any particular difference in angles or particular hold down fixings. You can go with standard hold down fixings with them. So probably something I'll need to dive into a little bit more detail and respond directly on that one. Great question.
Just another question from Marcus here. Edge insulation effects on bottom plate fixing for 90mm framing.
Yeah, edge insulation fixings for 90mm framing. Kind of covered off in my last answer, which you probably picked up. Yeah, that is a challenge. With 140mm framing, obviously your fixings are back. With 90mm framing, your fixings are quite close to the edge, and hence insulation either has to stop shy or go on the outside. Once again, I'll put a poke in for Quick Edge. They do a great system which does stop shy of the bolt fixing, so you don't need to change any of your fixings for a 90mm framing. More info on Quick Edge I can send through. And there's other suppliers out there too which are combating the same issue.
Sid asks, do you guys do the documentation? What drawing should the architect provide?
Documentation for a slab design, great question. So we can obviously do the full CodeMark Foundation design. We would present that back to yourselves with a CodeMark certificate, and this can be lodged for council. Equally, you guys can draw it yourself, pull in the standard detail, add the certificate, submit to council. So that's for jobs within CodeMark. Outside of CodeMark, it's obviously SED, and that's when an engineer gets involved, delivers their PS1, submits to council. Yep, so presuming you're speaking about CodeMark here, yes, you can design, we can design, job done with the certificate.
Good.
Other questions?
Stu asks, the drainage under pods or into fill below your preference?
Drainage under pods or into fill? Our preference. Challenging question one, that one. I'm just trying to get the context of it. Drainage. I'm thinking, is this beside concrete block walls on raised perimeters, or drainage of waste within the slab? So typical plumbing in a slab goes through the foundation and into the footing. It can also go through the slab itself. Obviously, there's two standards around plumbing and how it goes through the pods. Typically, we work with just the vertical penetrations where the plumbing is done prior to pods getting installed. I'm not sure if I've covered that one properly though, so I will look into that one after this and I'll see if I can cover it off better.
Stu actually did put another just an extra comment here: drainage of waste.
Drainage of waste. So the waste pipes going out. Yeah, so like I mentioned, the waste pipes going out typically would go straight through the pods into the compacted fill and out the side. With the standards that were brought in post Christchurch earthquakes, they can be done within the slab. So yeah, kind of covered off in my last answer. Can be done both ways.
Next question from Cameron. He asks, in the continuous system, regarding the edge pod supplied with closed side, or do we need to clip end caps on these?
Cool. So a question around continuous system and the variation in types of pods. Because the raft system had pre-closed sides, the continuous system has open sides, as you might have seen in the video, and they couple together one after the other. When it reaches the edge, you have an open side of a pod, and these are just capped off with a QPOD cap. These caps lock on with it's kind of like a deadlock on it, so it can't come off again. So they're really stable for pouring your concrete. So yes, they need to be kept off and that all comes provided with the pods.
And a question here from Jason. Does the raft design comply with TC2 slab designs?
Does the raft design comply with TC2 slab designs? Yes, 100%. Yep. So that's when we go into SED territory. We do a lot of TC2 designs every week. Typically, you'll see that raft design, you might see some more steel in the perimeter and the ribs, and possibly starting to verge on the point of adding fiber to the concrete as well. So yep, we've got plenty of TC2 options, and engineers have different takes on how to do this. We have ours as well.
Another question, is there a CodeMark design manual available so designers and engineers can draw your system and comply with the CodeMark?
Cool. Is there a CodeMark design manual supplied? Yep. So the landing page, we've got a really easy landing page right now, which Sam, our marketing man, set up, which is brilliant. It's got everything you need on it. It's got the design manual to follow. It's got the CodeMark certificate to submit with council. It's got the standard detailing to apply to your design. So you can take that today and poke it into a design, submit it to council today. And a big shout out to some who are on the call today who have already got CodeMark designs into council and getting processed by council right now in this way. Big shout out to you, Origin Homes. Love you guys. Any other questions there, Sam?
That's us for now. Yep.
All the questions covered. Nice. Oh, thanks all for your questions. I'm just going to tell you what our giveaway is, but if you've got any more questions, poke them through on an email, or we'll send an email following this with a recording so you can share it with your colleagues, others who missed out. Just moving straight on to our offer to you today. So free CodeMark Foundation designs until April 30th. So this is what we've got on offer for all you good guys who've jumped on today. We will design your foundation for you, within those CodeMark parameters. So we'll do that for free. Take that design hassle out of your hands, show you how it all looks, give you a layout of components, all detailed, CodeMark certificate supplied. Like I say, you can design it, but we're offering this for you today just to make it easy. So yeah, cheers all for joining. Have a great day. We really love this session. It's been flipping exciting.